work session this evening. Because we weren't able to do a work session last week, we do have an item for presentation by our city manager, Jim Fearborn. And it is for this Monday, April the 22nd, 2024. I'll go ahead and open the meeting and turn it over to Jim for a report. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. The single item that we have in front of you for work session tonight is to make the preliminary presentation of the compensation classification study that was put into this year's budget as both a funded item and a project. This compensation classification study has been many hours and a lot of work on the part of McGrath, the company that that the council chose to do this, as well as Mr. Murdoch and Ms. Auger sitting in the back have put in some agonizing hours, as usually goes with the compensation classification study. So want to thank them for all of their hard work. Company did a very excellent job in conducting this study. My presentation to you all tonight is kind of going to take 4 parts. The study itself, kind of an overview, and then want to talk about the charts that you have in front of you. The first 2 charts, obviously what you see at the top are the compensation study proposed chart, as well as the adopted chart that we're currently operating under, so you can compare side to side on that. Tonight's will be not really focusing on the older charts, but actually looking at the elements of the new chart. And then behind that, you have the same thing for the step chart, where you see the delineation within, because the salary chart just has the minimum, midpoint, and maximum on it. But you see the detail associated with each of the different ranges and steps. So the study itself, the last time we conducted a study such as this was over 15 years ago, and I'll be very candid with the council, it shows. We had a lot of differences, as you can see from comparison. That you can see we were behind, to be very candid with that. The study was comprehensive, looked at not only the positions themselves and the pay that was associated with them, but position titles to bring us up to date with the last 2 decades of how titles have changed, so that we could do good comparisons with our comparable cities and other jurisdictions. Job descriptions in some cases had to be reviewed and looked at and updated relative to the new titles. Of course, new positions who are coming on, we always do that anyway. So there wasn't so much within that regard that needed to be done, but there were still some trimmings that had to be done. Comparison to other municipalities that we are with, that are both compatible to our city and that we're in competition with, where we find over the last several years we have been losing positions to those cities. The list, just to get to the list itself, was probably the first 2 to 3 weeks where I wanted to be comfortable with the list that we were going to be doing for the comparables, so that it didn't appear and we wouldn't be cherry picking to try to boost something up. I wanted it to be really sound, meet the criteria that I had, because eventually I have to own the chart because I'm presenting it to you solely with my recommendation. So I wanted to be sure that we had a real sound start to this, because that's where it begins and ends. We ended up with 19 comparable either municipalities or counties that we were looking at. So a very comprehensive look at what our comparables were within this. Title changes that you see in here to positions reflect the total market. Examples that you'll see are Parks and Public Works workers 1, 2, and 3 will be changed to Parks and Public Works maintenance technicians for the positions that were 1 and 2, and we actually mold those 2 into 1. and then a specialist for Parks Worker 3. That's just one example of how we're changing titles to be more compatible and comparable with the market that's out there. Areas that I found drastically changed when we were looking at this, and you can kind of imagine this, we were well behind in both titling and compensation package for our IT department. IT has become, over the course of the last 2 decades, kind of a thing you may have heard, so we need to catch up with folks in there. And then in an unusual spot, police administration. We're behind across the board, but some areas really stuck out as we were looking at it, and I'll go into some of those details as we get into some of the other elements here. Any questions on the study itself? Yes, sir.
I'm sure at some point we would be curious. Sorry, I'm sure at some point we'll be curious about the just the list, just for the list of cities, the 17 cities, just for
I can actually
interesting.
I can actually run it down. Belton, Overland Park, Blue Springs, Raytown, Gardner, Riverside, Grandview, Shawnee, Independence, Johnson County, Leawood, Cass County, Lee Summit, Clay County, Lenexa, Johnson County, Liberty, Platte County, North Kansas City. Right.
So a lot closer to the region than in some and other things we compare to like Nixa in some.
Exactly. Two of the problems that manifested itself when looking at comparables, it is very difficult. One of the groups we lose to is private industry. You can't get information from private industry. They don't have to be transparent like we do, and they're a lot more flexible when it comes to hiring somebody. There's not a chart. It just doesn't exist in that particular world. So doing comparables to them is a very difficult item. When we get to the lower ranges within our chart, it's been amazing at the number of folks over the course of the past several years that we have lost to going, especially since COVID, that we have lost to working at home. In fact, our most recent loss was somebody who's going to work at home, and people who are leaving us to be internet influencers, kind of a thing now as well. So a little bit unexpected in that regard, but definitely something that we have to be cognizant of. Again, one of those, they're starting out on their own. In both of those types of instances, they're doing their own business. That's a difficult thing to try to compete with, if you will.
Yes.
When you looked at comparables on this, did you also look at total compensation comparables, such as the benefits, vacation time, work week, all of those things?
We do, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
How do you take that into consideration or factoring when you're factoring the wage? Do you have a weighted amount or?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Tonight, and for purposes of what we're showing to the council tonight, while that is in our mind, that is a presentation that comes with the budget. Okay. When we want to be an employer of choice with our benefit package and with all of the other intangibles that go with this. The purpose of tonight, though, is to give the council the first pass at the actual salary chart, because that's actually what you have to vote on it at some point. So.
However, in the private sector, most of the time when you're competing for people, they look very highly at that total compensation, like the ability maybe to work at home, or is it a 4-day work week? What are my benefits? And sometimes not just at the hourly wage. So that's why it's just
that's correct, sir.
Seeing how we compare with others in those packages too.
Yep. For the most part, when you're looking just at municipalities, it's all got to be the same.
Okay.
Because when you're working for a municipality, you can't work from home. Kind of stuck. Our police officers are kind of stuck here. Any other questions on the study itself? So looking at the charts, and these are some of the items that, working with McGrath and looking at the comparables, again, we want to be the municipal or the political subdivision employer of choice here. So that was my goal to get us to when I'm making final recommendations to you all. So when you look at this particular chart, the comp study chart, step one, when we would be hiring somebody at step one, we will be hiring them at 90% of the market, the current market that came from these studies. Step 14, because all of these, when you look at the step chart, we have compressed down to 14 steps before we had more than that. We've compressed all of the ranges down to 14 steps. So when you get to step 14, you'll be at 122.5% of the market. So well above the market by almost a quarter. Propose administrative policy-wise to continue the practice that the council has approved of giving a $5,000 signing bonus and a $5,000 bonus each 5 years of employment. That means that someone starting at step one is going to be starting at 90% of the market and will receive a $5,000 bonus for signing on with us. Pretty good incentive, pretty good starting pay. Step 5, you will be at 100% of the market, and we're going to do our best to keep this chart up so it remains, again, employer of choice. You'll be at 100% of the market. You'll receive your first retention $5,000 bonus. So the goal there was to keep people here and get people here thinking in 5 years I'm going to be paid 100% of the market, and I'm getting another and I'm going to make $10,000 over that period just in bonuses for being there. We're hoping that that will be a good incentive for people. What we found when we were looking at the current chart and comparing to what was being recommended by McGrath, we found that our current starting is, in nearly every case, below the market. Because we had the expanded steps going up to 18 steps, we weren't as bad in where we topped out percentage-wise. We were still below, but we weren't as bad as we were when we were starting the market. And you'll see that in some of these, where our new step 14 is a little bit closer than, say, a step 1 was with the same position.
So just for clarification, you refer to the term market a number of times. I'm assuming that's synonymous with mid-market point. Is that correct?
At any point in the chart. Yeah, but yes, mid-market point.
That's generally the standard for most
Right.
companies or cities that do a study. That's
correct.
kind of your target point, and it moves out from there,
Right.
starting all the way up to top out.
But we're
just wanted to
actually
verify that.
moving that 100% below the mid. Instead of at 7 going to 14, it's at 5. So we're accelerating to 100% quicker.
Thank you.
The original recommendation was start below the 90%. From a recruiting standpoint, I think being able to say we're starting you at 90% of market is going to be a factor. There are now 3 cases within the chart where, by virtue of grouping people in like groupings, in equitable ranges, and being compatible with the comparable cities that we're looking at, there are now 3 ranges, O, P, and R, and you'll see them on the new one, where we have both exempt and non-exempt persons in the exact same range. Up to now, that's only existed with our sergeants being in an exempt range. But now there's a few more of those folks that we're dealing with. You will note on the new chart, and this has been a pet peeve of mine for a while, and I just haven't brought it up to the council, but now that we're doing this for the first time in a long time. I did want to get it changed. From a finance and statistical standpoint, your X and Y axes should never have the same titles. It's too confusing when you have a range 2 and a step 2. So we've changed those to lettering. So the ranges are now letters, whereas the steps remain 1, 2, 3, 4. It was Matt McGrath's suggestion that we start not at A to give us room if we have to go backwards. So instead of going to B with just 1, they went to D. So I'm accepting that particular one. So we start at D at this point is our recommendation. Those are the charts as you see them here. I want to go into some personnel examples that a lot of folks I know are interested in and just kind of give you some comparisons. Again, brought up the workers 1 and 2 in both Parks and Public Works, as well as the specialists in those particular areas. So workers 1 and 2 title will become maintenance technicians. The pay range, when you compare the pay range of workers 1 and 2 now, that pay range in the current salary chart is $17.09 to $27.84 an hour. That's going to go to $20.80 to $28.67 an hour. So again, on the low end of that, you're seeing over a $3 increase an hour. But again, that it's not as bad in the upper part of the range. You're seeing it go from $27.84 to $28.67. So just under $1 at the top end. Workers 3 will become maintenance specialists. Pay range will go from $20.41 an hour to $30.30 an hour, and that will be going to, in the recommended chart, $25.12, almost a $5 increase an hour, to $34.62, about a $4 increase an hour. ITS Senior Network Technician will be retitled to Systems Administrator, go from $2,172.64 to $3,305.93, and that's going to be going to $2,932 biweekly to $4,041.60 biweekly. Again, a very, very large increase in those IT areas. Communications officers, probably our number one deficit area in the city, will be retitled to communications dispatchers. Current range, 2041 to 3030 an hour. That will be going up 2512 to 3462 an hour. Police officers, current range 2373 to 3610 an hour. They will be going to 2675 to 3691 an hour. Master police officers, current range 2457 an hour to 3738 an hour. They will be going to 3231 an hour to 4454 an hour. Again, as I'd stated, as you go up in rank in the police department, we're seeing that we were further behind. Not as bad at the police officer, while we were still behind, not as bad at the lower rank, but as you go up. Second example of that is our police captains will be going from 2,928.24 to 4,455.66. That will be going up to 4,231.12 to 5,832 an hour. Again, a significant increase bi-weekly. That'd be a heck of an hourly pay. Hey, wait a minute. They were way behind.
I want to get back in.
Any questions so far? And again, they're there for your comparison. I know Councilmember Abdelgawad is watching from home. I was able to share with her the new charts, Councilmember Abdelgawad. I will be sending you after the meeting tonight the old charts so you can compare them. Any questions so far?
Yes, Mr. Mills.
And again, this is being new on the council, just my ignorance, but what's the, I know there's a difference in pay, but what makes a police officer a master police officer versus a police officer?
Right, sir.
The difference being there are certain trainings and certain units that those folks would have to, so many points that those folks would have to obtain by doing extra things like SRO, investigations, or bike officer, CVSA operator, a whole list of different items where they can obtain points. And once they reach a certain point level, and that's broken down into 3 or 4 other different categories, then they move up to master patrolman.
So it's not just a tenure thing, it's an actual
Right.
thing they've earned.
Tenure is part of it, but it's only one of those tiers. There's
Okay.
3 tiers in there.
Chief, does it also include like college education,
Yes,
higher levels of
education.
college education? Yeah.
That's the second tier, is education. And then the specialty fields is the 3rd tier.
So what we'd like the council to do is take a little bit of time, just take a look at this. Again, it's your first brush, a lot of information. If you have any questions, give me a call. It would be our intention to be bringing this to you next month for formal approval. That's the easy part. We need a budget amendment to go from this chart to this chart. The hard part is implementing it. We have been working all of those long, hard hours, about 3/4 of them so far, and it's going to get even longer, is going to be bringing our existing personnel, and when you're this far behind, that's a task. I congratulate the council. You will remember that within the existing budget for this year, the actual active budget, current year revenues over expenses, you set aside a considerable dollar amount where we had held back expenses in the active budget, having nothing to do with fund balance. Again, we can't use fund balance for recurring cost. Having nothing to do with that, you set aside a considerable amount of revenue over expenses in the current year that are recurring revenues over expenses to pay for this study, to implement this study for our existing personnel. We have been working very, very hard on the detail that is associated with that to make sure that we are as fair to our existing personnel as possible. I can tell you that no existing personnel will be coming in at step 1, even if they're paid more, because we're going to be hiring people right behind them. So existing personnel have to, at the bare minimum, be at step 2. Our goal is to have some delineation within, if we have 5 dispatchers and they've been here years 2, 3, 4, 5, it's important, number one, obviously, that everybody make more coming into the new chart. That's necessarily going to happen because we know they're underpaid. But do we have enough within there? And that's what we're working on very hard right now, to make sure that that seniority designation with steps is recognized, even though we know if we have 2, 3, 6, and 8 in a grouping of employees, that we can't bring them in at 2, 3, 6, and 8. We can't afford that. But can we still afford a delineation? And I think the council, being wise enough to set aside that revenue, is going to allow for some of that within this, to make sure that we are recognizing people's merit time in. Whether that be going from 2, 3, 6, and 8 to 2, 3, 4, and 5, however that's going to look, that's what we're working towards. Again, the savings is in the general fund. So in the near term, like we did the last 2 of these, in the near term, it will increase the transfer into the Parks Fund and the Enterprise Fund to pay for those portions of the personnel that come out of that, until those funds can grow enough to then pick up those positions within the fund. Any questions on the implementation?
Mr. Mills?
Is the goal and desire to be able to implement this in its entirety now, or to have to phase it in over 2 years?
No, the goal is to implement it all at once. That's always your goal. Otherwise, you're favorably treating one group of employees over another, and you have, in something where you're trying to improve morale, you kill morale
Or
overnight.
I mean, or you take a say we only can implement this at 96% instead of 100%?
The intent is to spend all the money at once.
Okay.
And the intent would be, and if Miss Williams is sitting behind me, you may see the daggers, and I think she is. The intent is to back pay everybody to March 1, to have the implementation date for this be March 1, and move forward from there, which is going to mean a lot of work for the business office. I'm just going to leave it at that. So Ms. Williams will eventually be added to this because, again, when we're retroing to March 1, we're retroing overtime, we're retroing everything else. And then we move forward from there. So there's paycheck here, paycheck gets adjusted back.
For taxing purposes, though, would it be easier to implement it for April 1st than having to go back and amend quarterly tax returns? Would you have to amend quarterly tax returns if you?
Is your microphone on, sir? Is your microphone on, sir?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
I
Wanna
got,
say that again?
I answered it, I understand. So they would get like a lump sum during this time?
It's during the pay period.
Yes, okay.
Whatever pay period the adjustment
Okay,
is made in is where that comes to.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I am not used to answering a question that has not been directed to the chair. That's why I was stymied there at first, sir.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Holman?
One thing I'd be interested in seeing, assuming this is implemented, I think it's good. We are the #1 city in Cass County, and we need to pay like we're the #1 city in Cass County. I'd be interested to see if we have available figures to see the impacts on retention and attraction of new people, if we can get that. I realize that would be 6 months to a year out, but just see if our retention had been increased once we implemented this after time, and then what, if we'd seen even any ancillary evidence on attraction. I'm assuming we would. One
And
can make-
Councilman Wright can go ahead and answer a little bit of that because as a part of this study, and one of the reasons that we're backdating to March 1 is we started to get some of these initial figures in of where some of these positions might land, and especially some of our highest need positions within the city. We've already been starting to look towards how could we advertise at least within the range, because we're still within our old adopted range, right? But we know that the range hopefully will shift in the future, and we've already seen some new applications coming in as a result where we hadn't had any applications. So I think I think this is going to bear fruit, right? Especially in those hard to reach positions as we start to advertise this.
Yeah, and that's the goal, right?
Right, absolutely.
The circumstances have changed since COVID. There's been upward pressure on salaries across the board in both the public and the private sector, and there's been competition among cities, especially across this metro area. Police officers are probably one of the biggest ones. They are literally going out and recruiting. Overland Park recruits like military recruiters nowadays. So we're in competition for the same talent out there that we didn't have to work quite as hard for, say, 5 years ago. So it makes sense.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Barber?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Fairborn, thank you for this information. I know this is something that's been near and dear to your heart and something that you've been working on for quite a while and taking it very seriously. I know we've taken little steps, like we've added a vacation day, the retention bonus, and now this salary study information. And if it would be nice to get, once this is all implemented, to get some feedback from our people to see kind of what I know this isn't the end of it, is what's the next thing. I know what's important you know what's important to them, but we need to continue this conversation with them and make sure we know that we care about our staff here at City of Raymore, and we do everything that we can for them, and make it easier for us to get talent instead of lose talent.
Thank you, sir. And we will.
Mr. Fearborn, I know that Ms. Alger's in the room tonight, but I know she works very hard to make sure we get exit interviews from those that do leave us. And I know a lot of that information gets back to you for the purposes of inclusion in this overall study that you've been working on for months now. Actually, in addition to the landfill fight. So I know I come in here on Saturdays and I always wonder which one you're working on, the comp study or the landfills. But I do know that we do gather that information and we take that to heart, why people are leaving and how it's transpired. So I know there's a lot more to what goes into the study than just numbers, so to speak.
We not only look individual, sir, and Mr. Murdoch will concur on this, so will Ms. Auger. We look for patterns. We look for patterns of where they're going. We look for patterns of if they're disgruntled about a particular issue. We look for patterns, is it a pay issue only? We especially look for these patterns because we can't tell anything from the background. Are they going private? Are they going into business for themselves? But you're exactly right. It is critical information to us as we move forward.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the information. It's
Thank
a
you,
lot
sir.
to absorb. I know you guys worked, like I said, for months, if not a year, better on this thing. So does anybody have anything else for the work session before we move on? If not, we'll go ahead and adjourn the work session. And I will call the Raymore City Council regular meeting to order for Monday, April the 22nd, 2024, and ask for the roll call, please.
Councilmember Abdel Gawad, absent. Councilmember Baker.
Present.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Circo.
Present.
Councilmember Engert. Present. Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. We have a quorum. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and we'll now move on to presentations and awards. I'll ask you to stay with me here. So I asked our city clerk to prepare this proclamation for me tonight. It actually is in honor of professional municipal clerks. It is a time-honored tradition that we recognize them for the hard work that they do. And you guys know just from every Monday night or every other Monday when she's able to be here with us, that how hard they work. And so there's a proclamation here I'd like to read. Whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the professional municipal clerk provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels, and whereas professional municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the professional municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas professional municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the professional municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, provincial, county, and international professional organizations, and whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishments of the office of the professional municipal clerk, now therefore I, Christopher B. Turnbow, Mayor of the City of Raymore, do hereby recognize the week of May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Professional Municipal Clerks Week, if you could gather that from all of that. And further extend appreciation to our clerk, Erica Hill, and to all municipal clerks for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. A witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Raymore to be affixed this 22nd day of April 2024. I'm going to hand this over to our professional municipal clerk and say thank you very much for your service. We appreciate everything you do. I know you've worked very hard on achieving different levels of professionalism in this, and she is constantly making herself even more vital to our community by learning more and more about the position. And she is now a mentor to many other city clerks in the region, and we appreciate everything she's done. So thank you, Erica. Okay, we have no personal appearances this evening. We'll now move to staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just wanted to supplement my written report a little bit. This year, the APWA snow conferences in Kansas City were far enough into the spring that I can mention snow without jinxing us. And so the Public Works crew is going to be taking advantage of that next week. We're going to split the crews. There's quite a lot of education, and with it being budget time, there's also a showroom floor that they can look at things that we may be asking to acquire. So also Ward Road, the bridge has been removed, or the box culvert's been removed, and the contractor is getting ready to install the piles, and so it's moving along smoothly. And that concludes my staff report.
All right, thank you, Michael. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Krass? Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just noticed the other day, I pulled out of the clubhouse in Creekmore and looked to my left, and I could see all the way to Madison. They got 163rd Street cleared out. Are they, I know they don't have the curbs in yet or any of that, but do you have an idea of when that's going to be finished up?
I don't. The rain, with the clay soils we have, the rains last week probably set them back a couple of weeks, but it shouldn't. I would think by end of summer they should be done.
Anyone else? Okay. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Krass. I would ask Mr. Mustine to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thanks, sir. Mayor, members of the council, I've submitted a written staff report, and just a couple highlights on that. This Friday is our first food truck event of the season, and 5:30 at Recreation Park. We'll have to just play the weather as it comes with this, but we'll make sure to notify everybody if that does get postponed to another date. And also exciting news, today we started the trail work at Recreation Park that we've been working on. So we finished that one portion that was already contracted earlier in this year. That wrapped up last week, and then this year the new crew came out and started working around the baseball diamonds, and that's where they're gonna focus on that area to try to get that done before the bulk of baseball season starts. And so pretty excited about that project, and of course the rack is still going and a lot of other things, but we are very busy. We got the farmers market coming up in June started, and just looking forward to a great season. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of Nathan? I noticed that the rack it looks like it's enclosed now.
Yes,
for
sir.
the most part. Have they started on the flooring yet?
No, the flooring will be towards the end. Right now, they're working on the walls and interior ductwork and electric and things of that nature. But we are enclosed now, so that allows us to do some work during some inclement weather, which we've been pretty fortunate, really.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Mustine. I would ask Ms. Harmer to make a communications report.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Over the last few weeks, a lot of press releases have been written, mostly on one topic, as you can assume, and a lot of fielding questions from media. We actually, for the first time since I've been here, set up a press conference last Monday before the special meeting, and we'll continue doing basically a lot of media, a lot of work with the media, with the Kansas City area media here over the next few days or weeks. Aside from that, the Raymore Arts Commission hosted their art competition awards reception on Friday night at Centerview. It was very well attended. I think maybe close to 100 participants or 100 attendees, including the mayor, thank you, and Councilwoman Abdel-Gawad. And we gave away awards and had food and drinks and a lot of appreciators of the arts, just enjoying the evening. So it was really, I think, a big success, and we hope to do it bigger and better next year. That's all I have for you.
Yep, it was a fun evening. Any questions of Melissa? Okay, thank you. Mr. Fairborn?
Thank you, Ms. Harmer. Just a reminder to the council, you do not have a meeting next week. It is the 5th Monday. So enjoy your much-earned night off.
All right, that concludes staff reports. So we'll now move on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. We have the regular meeting and special meetings that we had last Monday night on April the 8th. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Holman.
sir, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented to include City Council regular meeting minutes for April 8th, 2024, and City Council special meeting minutes for April 8th, 2024.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to unfinished business. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3885 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3885 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract proposal with Black & McDonald for the Heritage Hills streetlight installation in the amount of $244,707.87, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
I believe there was a staff report given on this particular item at the last meeting. If there are no further questions, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
sir, I move that we approve Bill 3885, award of contract for the Heritage Hills streetlight installation.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3885. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3890 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3890 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a one-year contract extension with Lippert Mechanical Services for preventative HVAC maintenance and repair.
Thank you. This was also covered by staff report at the last meeting. I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Your Honor,
Mr. Holman.
sir, I move that we approve Bill 3890, award of contract for HVAC maintenance.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Barber. Been a motion made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3890. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, Tom. You're getting up there quick, man. I'm proud of you. Could I please have the second reading of Bill 3891 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3891 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving and authorizing the city manager to execute a one-year contract extension with Central Power Systems and Services for preventative emergency generator maintenance and repairs.
Thank you. And again, if there are no further questions on this item, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of it.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
sir, I move that we approve Bill 3891, the award of contract for emergency generator maintenance.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3891. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. We'll now move on to new business. Under new business, our first item to tackle is that under Section 3.4 of the City Charter, the Mayor Pro Tem provides that the council shall elect annually from among its members a Mayor Pro Tem. Mayor Pro Tem shall assume the powers and duties of the mayor during the absence or disability of the mayor, or if a vacancy occurs, while assuming the powers and duties of the mayor during the physical absence in person or disability of the mayor, until and if the seat is declared vacant, the mayor pro tem shall retain his or her vote as a council member, but shall not possess the additional mayoral voting power provided by Section 4.4, paragraph A, and shall not possess the mayoral veto power provided by Section 4.4, paragraph C. While assuming the powers and duties of the mayor following a vacancy, the mayor pro tem shall possess the mayoral veto power provided by Section 4.4C and the mayoral voting power provided by Section 4.4A, but shall not retain his or her vote as a council member. So as an explanation of why we're addressing that this evening, it is a one-year term, and we are ready to select a new mayor for the council, or mayor pro tem for the council. So I will open the floor right now for any nominations. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to nominate Councilmember Jay Holman.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations at this time, and I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor of Jay Holman to be mayor pro tem? Anyone against? Abstain? All right, we have six, pardon me, sir?
I abstain.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I know. That's why it was six. Okay. 6-0-1 for vote welcome, and congratulations, Mr. Holman, on your selection.
Thank you, sir. And
As
I
Mayor
just
Pro
would-
Tem?
all I would ask is that you don't get sick or disabled.
Okay. I'll try not to. We'll now move on to item B. Wishes to remain, okay, yes, annually, you guys have to decide whether or not you want me to retain my seat on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I will open that up for discussion. I'm willing to continue to serve in that role, to be your designate, so. Mr. Barber?
I don't have any problem with that. I think you do a great job. You do a great job communicating with us and also with the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. So do we vote on that, or if we just?
I don't know, Mr. Zerzan.
It is actually, the council can pick if you want one of your own to serve, and the mayor decides if he wants to serve as well.
Gotcha. Anybody else want
And
to serve?
there, in every year past, since I have been here, the council has chosen not to have a membership on. The mayor has always chosen to be on.
Any thoughts on that? Mr.
Sure.
Holman?
Yeah, so this actually has matured over the years. Mr. Fearborn will remember we actually had the option to put a member on the Parks Board as well at one time. That's kind of gone away, and it has been a number of years that we've had the current status that we've had. You have agreed and elected to serve on Planning and Zoning. That served us and Parks Board very well, especially communication between the two groups when we have surges, especially in building, whether that be commercial or residential. And I think it's a good process, and I think it's really fleshed itself out, and I think we should stay with it the way it is currently if you're willing to serve again, sir.
Absolutely. Mr. Burke?
I don't have any disagreements with that, but one thing that I think that would be, I would like to go to the American Planning Association conference sometime, the national one. I wanted to go when I was on P&Z, and then I moved here quickly, but I'm going to have the time, and I know other people probably would want that ability as well, but that doesn't mean we have to serve necessarily on the.
True. I think, David, you guys do a budget for that in your budget for at least one member to attend, correct?
Yeah, each year the council provides funding for one commissioner and two staff members to go. That can certainly, we're not capped by being a member of that association, so we could send as many delegates as the city may wish. We just got back from Minneapolis last week, and it was quite interesting, so.
I'll bet it was.
That did not reflect Mr. Gress's assessment of the conference that he gave me this morning in my briefing, by the way. Because it was Minneapolis.
Yeah. Did they ask you to help with their planning efforts for revitalization and redevelopment?
They had pitched in a few ideas while I was there.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, so everybody's good with me staying on the Planning and Zoning? All right. I'm good with it. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I kind of have fun being on there. It gives me a vote. With that, we'll move on to the next item. Please have the first reading of Bill 3893 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3893 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Terry Snelling Construction Incorporated for the 2024 curb replacement project, city project number 24-442-201, in the amount of $614,282, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We are presenting the annual curb replacement program contract tonight. The work that is going to occur is shown on the attached map to the council memorandum. Terry Snelling we have a long standing working relationship with Terry Snelling Construction on this work, and we do recommend award. That concludes staff report.
All right, sir. Thank you. Any questions of staff at this time? Mr. Mills?
And again, just for my information, if I remember correctly, in one of the work sessions I sat in a couple months ago, there was mention, I guess, when you were talking about this, that we've like changed our standards on how we do curbs or improved the concrete or something like that. Was that correct, that we've updated how we do curbs?
Mr. Krass?
Yes, sir. We, a number of years ago, we changed from a limestone aggregate to a granite aggregate that provides more durability of the concrete.
Yeah, great.
And we also went with modified high back rather than the rollover.
Okay. I thought I remembered hearing that, and I just wanted to confirm that. Yeah.
What I think has been nice about the program too is that when they do the driveway cuts, there's a more moderate incline rather than just a roll curb that has always been the same laid out. So there's no transition for driveways. And the way they've been able to install the high back curb is they actually have smoothed out the entrances to driveways. I really like the way that that's been designed, and it's worked out pretty well for folks here in the community. Okay. Anyone else have anything? All right, sir. If there are no further questions of staff, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Bill 3893, award of contract to Terry Snelling Construction for the 2024 curb project.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3893. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously 7-0. Okay, please have the first reading of Bill 3892 by title only.
The first reading of Bill 3892 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with J.M. Fahey Construction Company for the 2024 street preservation project, city project number 24-450-201, in the amount of $1,040,582.50, and authorizing the city manager to approve change orders within established budget constraints.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Kraft to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This program is our annual mill and overlay program, which is a companion to the curb project. We are recommending award to J.M. Fahey. Again, we have a long-standing working relationship with them. They do excellent work. The locations where we're going to be performing work are also shown on the map attached to our agenda item memo. That concludes staff report.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff on this particular item? If there are none, I'd entertain a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3892.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Bill 3892, award of contract to J.M. Fahey Construction Company for the 2024 street preservation program.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3892. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0. And the last item under new business, could I please have the first reading of, well, I guess it is the reading of Resolution 24-15.
The reading of Resolution 2415 by title only, a resolution of the City of Raymore, Missouri, approving a 6-month extension of the preliminary development plan for the Alera Planned Unit Development.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Gress to make a staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and council, the item in front of you this evening is a preliminary development plan extension request for the Alera subdivision on behalf of Hunt Midwest, who owns that property currently. As the council may recall, it's approximately a 52-acre subdivision on the west side of Dean Avenue, south of Johnston. The preliminary plan contained 171 single-family lots. It was originally approved by the council in April of 2022. Last year, because there was no action on a final plat, the council did grant a 1-year extension to the project. It is currently set to expire on April 25th of this year, so here in the next couple of days. Working back with Hunt Midwest on the process here to propose this, the council may recall recently they provided an extension of 6 months to the Sendera project, which was very similar to this, just in a different area of the city. Over the last couple of years, at least since I've been here, we've had several preliminary plats that have expired and a couple that are still valid. A few years ago, the council provided some direction to keep a close eye on some of those projects and either propose that they be extended within a certain reasonable time frame or simply let them expire if there are instances where there are code changes. And so, as you'll see in your packet here, the property owner did request a 1-year extension, which is permitted by code. But given the direction that we received most recently with the Sendera project, we felt it was only fair to also recommend a 6-month extension and see how things are here in the next 6 months and review it again at that time. I do know John Burgle with Hunt Midwest is in the audience this evening. If there are any questions about activity on the project, I'll certainly let him explain some of the things that Hunt Midwest has been working on.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is John Burkle. I'm with Hunt Midwest. I'm the Director of Residential Development, 1881 Main Street, 64108. Yes, we have interest. There's a growing pent-up demand as of the Fed wanting to change some interest rates over this year. And about 2 weeks ago, they said they might hold out until 2025. So there's interest, there's growing, people are running numbers. It's just a matter of when that time happens that those interest rates drop enough to get the ball rolling with some of these builders and developers.
Sure.
So I would really appreciate your evaluation of a 6-month extension. Would really appreciate that.
I know, sir, you'd originally asked for 1 year. Does the 6-month create any issues for you?
It doesn't create any issues.
Okay.
We would just, most likely with what the Fed said 2 weeks ago, is that we would probably come back most likely in 6 months. If things change, we will definitely jump on it. But from what they've said, it might be a year before actually something shakes loose. But the 6 month is okay, and we'll come back if we
That's
need to.
kind of the triggering mechanism for you all right now, is to see how interest rates react.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I got you. All right. Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Burke?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your letter to us, it says we're currently, at least 3 companies have expressed interest in buying finished lots. Does that mean finished homes?
Lots. What finished lots would mean that we put in all the infrastructure, sewers, lights, power, and then we would sell the properties to a build team or a larger builder to then have them build and sell the homes and market. Now, that can work different ways. We can partner with them and they can sell, and we can work that with each builder, but each builder is going to want to approach it differently.
I just wanted to clarify that you weren't saying that you were going to build homes and then sell them to a company, maybe to have all of them rented homes or something like that. And you answered it, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. If there are no further questions of staff or the participant, I would entertain a motion to dispose of this item.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman?
Sir, I move that we approve Resolution 2415, a 6-month extension of the Alera planned unit development.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion's been made and seconded for the adoption of Resolution 24-15. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And that concludes our meeting this evening. We'll now move on to public comments. If anyone from the public would like to approach the council, I'm not seeing anyone. So we'll close the public comment section. And who did I start with last week? Did I start with you, Joe, last week? Again, did I start with you? All right, we'll go with Joe tonight. We'll start with you tonight.
I was
Joe.
not first last week. Pretty much all I have, we're coming up on the end of the school year, and today the high school staff went around and put signs in all the graduates' yards. These are the same kids that were 8th graders that didn't get to go to school for April, May, and April and May when they were 8th graders, and they have this class has had a tremendous amount of struggles that they've overcome amazingly, and we wanted to do the same thing we did for them when they were 8th graders, and then recognize them again. So, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to thank my fellow council members for having enough confidence in me to elect me as Mayor Pro Tem for the next year. I will try not to screw up, and I'll try my best. That's all I have, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Mr. Inger.
I want to say congratulations, Jay.
Thank you, sir.
Well deserved and well earned. My other comment is, sure would be nice to be young again. And what I mean by that is after 22 years, hard time at Grandview Police Department, where I started at $6 an hour. It would be nice to start again, and Raymore would be an ideal place to conduct my career from there. But anyway,
Amen to
thank
that.
you.
Yeah. Boy, do I know that feeling. Mr. Barber.
Hey, thank you, Your Honor. Let me remind Mr. Inger that the hamburger was probably a quarter back then, too. So I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Hill on her recognition tonight, and you did a great job putting your proclamation together for yourself. So you're the only person that has to do work when you get an award. But
I know, right?
Great job, Ms. Harmer. I just want to tell you too that. Through this past almost 2 years with this landfill issue and the communication that you've done and the things that you have kept us up to speed has just been nothing short but awesome, and I really appreciate it. I know it's been a ton of extra work for you and a lot of long hours, and but that hasn't gone unnoticed, and thank you very much. And that kind of brings me back to tomorrow. It looks like there's going to be a trip made to Jeff City.
There will be.
The mayor and the city manager, I want to extend a Godspeed to you guys. Get down there safe and sound and bring back some great news. But this is very exciting for our city.
It
And
really
thank you
is.
for doing that.
You bet. You bet. Mr. Circo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I just chime in on Mr. Councilman Barber and Ms. Harmer, and everyone here that's done a fantastic job. Erica was so humble. She stood there, not smiling, just humble to take the hand. It was so humble of you, as you're writing your own proclamation. But that's nice. But you deserve it so much. I do want to tell the mayor that I've been working hard, and now I think I popped my shoulder. I'll have to work on it this week, get some salve on it, but that's okay, sir.
That's all right.
I can take the pain. I'm an old horse. But anyway, thanks to the city. You guys have a safe trip tomorrow. Drive safely. Pray for Godspeed there and back. And pray for good tidings and good resolve. That's what I have to say.
Mr. Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Councilman Holman on the new position of Mayor Pro Tem. Looking forward to that with you in the position. I think you'll do great. Also, Mrs. Hill, congratulations on the City Clerk Award. Well deserved. I know that when I first ran, you were the first person to actually physically talked to in the city of Raymore. I'd made phone calls and things, but when I came in to do that, kind of the face and then the front person of the city. So congratulations on that, much deserved, and that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, he was the first person in City Hall you were nice to. There you go. Mr. Mills.
A couple things. One, I had the privilege of attending the Royals game Saturday evening, and the Ray Peck Middle School sang the national anthem, and they did a phenomenal job. It made us proud. It'd have been nice if the Royals had won, but they did a great job. And the other thing I wanted to mention, several people have mentioned the communication, and again, I guess kind of being the new guy or the outsider, I've been really impressed with the communication and how all the communication is on point and it's the same message that's going out. And so I compliment the council staff because that's very difficult to do in something this large, and I have been extremely impressed with that. Excellent job there. And then the last thing I'll mention is that everybody thinks today's Earth Day, but before it was ever Earth Day, it was my wedding day, April 22nd,
Happy anniversary.
1983. So 41 years we celebrated today. So.
All right, good for you. All right. Well, and I was going to say Happy Earth Day to everybody today. Prior to that, though, there was Arbor Day, and Arbor Day celebration, they planted a tree in memory of my daughter-in-law over at Belton. And I want to thank the city of Belton and Mayor Norman Larkey for the beautiful proclamation that he read and for the recognition that Kirsten Turnbow got on that day for her time as an employee of the city of Belton. As you know, we tragically lost her last October, and my son still works for the city of Belton and loves it, and they have put their loving arms around him. It's been quite the ordeal, but I can't say enough about the folks over there in Belton who have stepped up and shown a lot of compassion over these last months. So thank you again to the city of Belton. Also, we concluded last week on the 17th a week of kindness that we had formally recognized through proclamation. I hope everybody had an opportunity to express, at least on one occasion, a kind word to someone or an act of kindness during that week. I appreciate that. It certainly can be a tough thing to do in this day and age, but it's certainly needed more and more. And also, I want to thank Melissa. She actually, to follow on what you said earlier, Kevin, she this evening before we came into the meeting, she says, "Mr. Mayor, do you want to see what you said tomorrow?" And so I actually gave her some input on it, so she made those modifications. So I did have a little bit of effort in there, but thank you, Melissa. And that's all I have this evening. We have no reason to go into executive, do we?
No, sir.
Oh, thank God. All right, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Holman.
I move that we adjourn this April 22nd, 2024 meeting of the Raymore City Council.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Motion has been made and seconded for adjournment. All those in favor? It is unanimous, 7-0. We are adjourned. Thank you all.